Before I get started, though, I did want to do my own. I love the idea of like the show and tell thing. So I thought I'd do my own kind of for Litmus, but it's less of a show and tell and more of a predict and pray type situation. So we have our own conference called Litmus Live. Anybody been there before? Show of hands. Awesome. I like the woos. Yeah. So it's been going on. This is going to be our 8th year, which is kind of wild to think about. 7th or 8th, I think 8th. And for a long time, we sent like really fancy emails around the conference. So you may have seen things like a live Twitter feed in our emails. We've done like a choose your own adventure type email. We've done like the full checkout experience in the inbox. And they've generally worked out really, really well for us. And a lot of that has to do with we have a very specific audience, which is all of you, which are really sophisticated email geeks that keep us on our toes, make sure that we do really good work. But this year is the first time where we're really stepping away from doing really highly interactive email experiences around the conference, at least. So my prediction is that when it comes to selling tickets for our conference, those interactive elements, those fancy emails won't make a difference, and that we're going to be selling as many, if not more, tickets based on really kind of simple, I don't want to say dumbed down, but very simplified messaging that is all about like the value prop of the conference, what you're going to learn, and less about the experience inside of your inbox itself. So this is a huge shift for us because we're known for these types of emails and our audience expects us to do these types of emails, but there's a lot of reasons why we're doing this. So I want to go through a couple of them. So that's my prediction, is that it's not going to matter. The praying part is that I'm praying that it doesn't matter and we sell enough tickets because I'm largely responsible for Litmus Live, which is very scary sometimes. So like you all, we have a very small email team. Right now there are 4 dedicated people to the email team, although most of the marketing team helps out a lot. And we have a lot of different priorities. We're a high growth company and we have some very audacious goals. Because of that, we have very limited resources when it comes to email, and the conference, those emails aren't necessarily a priority for us. They're good to do cool things like this, but that's not what the marketing team's really focused on when it comes to Litmus right now. So we have to be very selective with how we use those resources, just like I'm sure everybody in this room. So there's other things we need to focus on, like transactional emails and lifecycle marketing and all that good stuff. Another reason is that we feel like since we've been doing this, I think our first one was from 2015, this live Twitter email on the left here. So we used that hashtag TEDC15, which it used to be called the Email Design Conference. So we used that to populate and pull in tweets for that conference. So that was that first time, was 2015. We've done a bunch since then. 2016, we actually had to change the name of the conference because the election was going on and the hashtag TEDC16 no longer worked for us. That Twitter feed was filled with a lot of talk of Ted Cruz and the Zodiac Killer and all that stuff. So we rebranded to Litmus Live. It wasn't just about email design anymore, too. It was holistic email marketing. So we've done this for a really long time, and our audience kind of expects it out of us. But we saw, especially this past year, that it seems like it was kind of stagnating. Since we've been doing it for so long, it isn't getting the return, that buzz that we really want to see. And a lot of that buzz we track, which I'll talk about in this impromptu talk here. A lot of that buzz we track through like things like Twitter and Instagram and email replies that we get back. And we weren't just seeing that anymore. And then we're also looking to expand our audience too as far as Litmus Live goes. So it's not just the designers and developers that will really appreciate the technical aspects of emails like this. We want to look at a broader landscape of email marketers and people that are like strategists, copywriters, your managers, stakeholders, all that kind of stuff too. And things like this might not work for them. That's not really what they're expecting to see or what they get value out of. So we're really banking on really honing the messaging, honing the value proposition of the conference itself, talk about and explain what people are going to learn, all that good stuff. And again, I'm predicting that this isn't going to make a difference, and we're still going to sell as many, if not more, tickets. And I'm really, really praying that it does, because that's one of my major goals this year, is to get that conference up and running pretty well. So that was my show and tell. Any questions about that before I get into my actual impromptu talk?
I was curious if maybe, I mean, it's hard to tell unless you're running a test on it, but I'm wondering if the fun kind of interactive elements that you guys are known for
Sure.
industry
Yeah.
versus the inspiration that they would typically see from like a regular newsletter, the amazing emails that you normally send.
Yeah, that's my hunch, is that it's going to like focus what people are supposed to do in the email, as opposed to just like leave them in the inbox, not doing anything and just playing around with this cool fancy email. So I think that more tailored, like specific messaging will get them to go to the landing page and buy tickets and get excited about the conference itself. So I agree with that. Cool. If no other questions, I'll get into my actual topic here, which is how the hell do you get and keep email subscribers? So I'm Jason Rodriguez. I work at Litmus. I'm an evangelist, which is like the worst title ever. But I usually say I just go around like teaching people about how to do email marketing and design and coding better. My pronouns are he, him. I'm on Twitter at RodriguezJ. I have one of those really fancy, really good email profiles. If you want to follow me there, I do tons of collections, favorite a lot of stuff. There's all kinds of really cool emails out there in the wild. But I have to say thanks to Jeff Yoder. He was the guy that was supposed to be up here on stage. And I will be very honest that I cribbed a lot of this presentation from his slides, which Mike was kind enough to share with me. So thank you, Jeff. Round of applause for Jeff, even though he wasn't able to make it here. So Jeff runs a newsletter called The Sports Letter, which you can sign up for at thesportsletter.com. It's a great digest. It's like a super short daily digest about sports news. And he uses a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about today to drive email growth, and then perhaps more importantly to retain those email subscribers and really effectively engage with them. So that's kind of what I'm going to be going through today. So we all know that email is valuable. Hopefully everybody in here realizes that. Litmus, we do a bunch of research around the value of email, and I think this is from 2019. This number might have jumped up a little bit since then. But the average ROI for email marketing is 42 to 1. So you spend $1, you get 42 back, which is pretty awesome. And routinely blows like every other marketing channel out of the water, despite people saying email's dead. But we hopefully all know that email is super valuable. We want to invest in it, and we want to get as much as we can out of email marketing. So how do we actually do that? There's a couple of things we need to do. We need to get more people reading our email campaigns. We need to engage with the people reading those email campaigns more effectively, and hopefully retain them over the long term so that we can build these really valuable relationships with people. So I'm going to break that down into these 3 different sections here. So the first one is, how do we get more people reading our emails? There's a lot of different techniques for doing that. The main one that most people are using is giving away free shit. The key here is to make sure that you don't give away shit itself. Like, you want to make really good stuff that people want to sign up for. So at Litmus, we do a bunch of different reports. Chad used to lead up all of the report creation and research at Litmus before he left us for Oracle, which happens. But we have tons of great ebooks, tons of great stats. And it's not unlike most other companies out there that have white papers, ebooks, all this research that they're releasing. And this is one of those key ways that we can get people to subscribe to our newsletters, sign up for things. So most often there'll be some sort of like PDF or templates or worksheets or something like that that are behind a gate that they need to use their email address to sign up. But this is a great method for getting people subscribed, but it's kind of table stakes at this point. Most people are using this kind of technique, and most subscribers expect to see things like this. But there's sometimes far better ways to get people to actually subscribe to your newsletter. A great thing that we try to do too at Litmus, and I know Jeff has done with a sports letter, is to use co-promotions. And the key here is when you're trying to find people to promote with, is to find both similarly sized newsletters. In the case of the sports letter, there's a bunch of different ones out there that are in the sports industry and that have similar subscribers. But really you want to find people that are similar sized newsletters, because they're most likely to have similar audiences as well, and you're trying to tap into those audiences. So co-promotions are great. At Litmus, we do a lot of things with companies like Salesforce, HubSpot, Oracle, whoever, and it's a really great way to not only get more subscribers from those companies, from that promotion experience, but also to spread the education and the email love around, which is great. Paid advertising can also work as well. So the key here is find out where that audience that you have or that you want actually hangs out. So you can do paid advertising on pretty much any platform. YouTube, Facebook, Google, Instagram, wherever, you know. So those have different costs associated with them. So it's really, you don't want to just blindly spend money across all these different channels and hope for the best. So the key here is to find out where the audience you want is actually spending their time, and then try to target that audience specifically on those platforms and dedicate all of your budget to those targets so that you can get the most out of them as well. Sweepstakes can be a really compelling way to get people to sign up for your newsletter. It's kind of like that give free shit away, but this is like bigger shit. This is like trips and TVs and MacBook Pros and all that good stuff. The key here, though, is that when people sign up for a sweepstakes, usually they have zero intention of sticking around, listening to you in your newsletter, and like maintaining that long-term relationship. So the key here is to hook them as soon as possible. Once you get them on that list, try to figure out what resonates with them and send them that content immediately. You want to get them in right off the bat, or else you're going to lose them pretty quickly. So it's a riskier thing, but if you have the budget to run a sweepstakes or partner with somebody that does sweepstakes, that could potentially be a really good way to grow that subscriber list. But you got to get them really, really quick because they're not going to stick around very long. And then one of the best ways that work not only for emails, but for just products in general, and one of the ways that the sports letter has really grown their email list has been using incentivized referrals. So you may be familiar with companies like Dropbox that use incentivized referral programs. I remember when Dropbox first came out, and it was like, what was it, like a gig free, and then every person you referred, it was like 500 megabytes extra or something like that. You better believe, like me and my family and friends, we gamed the hell out of that so that we could get as much free storage as possible. And the same thing applies. Like, you can do that in email. At the sports letter, they have this kind of like membership scoring kind of program where if you refer a friend, they sign up for the email list, your referral link, then you get to score points that you can use for different things that the sports letter does. So using this approach, this is one of those driving things that Jeff was able to use for the sports letter to grow his audience from essentially 0 to over 100,000 within a year, which is pretty amazing growth. And those people have largely stuck around, and they're current subscribers, and it's created this really good relationship with everybody. The key here is to make everybody feel like they're part of a team. And I think that's an apt metaphor for the sports letter, obviously. But your subscribers are on your team. They want to hear from you. They want to create that relationship. So ideally, when you're using something like a referral program, when you're talking to your subscribers, you're making them feel like a special part of the team. So you can do this in a variety of different ways. Those incentives could be different things. They could not only be like free storage on Dropbox, but they could be, you know, like swag that you send out to them when they hit a certain threshold of people that they forward your email to. It could be personalized notes. It could be exclusive content, stuff that shows that you really understand them as an audience and as subscribers, and that you really care about them and how they're helping to grow your team. I think that's something that applies not only for growth of your email program, but just email in general. Is if you can get subscribers that love what you do in email and feel like they're part of the team, then they're going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you when it comes to email growth. That's definitely something we've found over time at Litmus, is as we create these like cool email experiences, people absolutely love them, and they're waiting for the next one, which could work against me when it comes to the conference stuff, but hopefully not. And they feel like they're part of Team Litmus. They feel very devoted to the brand. They feel very devoted to what we do in email, and they love sharing all of that outside of the inbox. They forward things to friends. They tweet about it on Twitter. They talk about it on Instagram, and we're very fortunate in that regard. But that's only come through years and years of trying to understand them better, trying to make them feel like they're part of the team, and trying to provide valuable content for them. So once you get people on your team, once you get them signed up for the newsletter or whatever email you happen to be sending, how do you keep them reading your emails? And there's a couple of key things here. Number one is see what works, which we've talked about throughout the day, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about it tomorrow as well. But identify some key metrics and focus on those key metrics. But figure out what metrics actually matter to you as a brand. Far too often people are looking at vanity metrics like open rates, when more important things like click-through rates, click-to-open rates, lifetime subscriber value, you know, money earned per subscriber, stuff like that could be far more important. So figure out which of those metrics actually matter, and then focus on those things. But keep it in mind a couple of different things. Privacy absolutely matters, and there's this growing discussion in the email world and the broader world around digital privacy and how much, if at all, that matters, especially in the email marketing world. There have been a couple of developments recently where some pretty big name people and big name companies have been kind of railing against this idea of email tracking. They call, tracking pixels invisible spy pixels. Talk about how we shouldn't be able to see what people do in an email campaign and how we never got consent from them. If you're compliant with GDPR, then I hope you got consent from your subscribers, and I hope you're not gonna get sued or anything like that. But this is something to keep in mind, that privacy does in fact matter. I expect to see a growing movement around digital privacy, especially in the email world. It's something that we're gonna have to take very seriously and figure out how we handle it as email marketers. But just keep that in mind. And if you do find subscribers, you have that audience that's very privacy focused, understand that there are other ways to track how effective your email campaigns are. There are other ways to see what works in your newsletters and how to keep people engaged. So I want to go through some of those different tactics that we could use. In-email polls are a great way to figure out what subscribers like. So this might be a bad example. It's just in a poll in an email from Dropbox again, kind of asking you to rate your customer service experience. Thank you, really good emails for this example. But there's a lot of different tools, most ESPs have them, that allow you to add some sort of polling feature in your email campaign. And it can be an amazing way to get feedback from your subscribers about how well your campaign worked. It's usually pretty easy to set up. All of those are just individual links that you can track. And kind of just collect that information based on which of those links are clicked through to. But in-email polls are a great way to, you don't have to collect any of that personally identifiable information. You don't have to have really super advanced tracking on this email campaign or worry about geolocation or anything like that. It's really a simple way to do this. Just say, what do you think of this email newsletter? Is it valuable? Is it not? And then just get that feedback based on that. Monitoring buzz is just a great way to do it in general, and this is one of the key things that we look at Litmus when we send an email campaign, is how people are talking about it outside of the inbox. So much of metrics are kind of based around like what happens in the inbox, but a lot of times you can start really good conversations with people outside of the inbox. Twitter's the main way that we do that because we have a very vocal audience on Twitter. But we usually monitor after a send what people are saying about Litmus. Or are they sharing screenshots? Are they, taking screenshots of it in Lotus and, giving a shit about how bad it looks in Lotus Notes, our newsletter, because we have the kind of audience that'll take us to town about that, which is good and bad. But it's a great way to get that feedback to figure out, like, do we need to fix our email campaigns in this specific client? Is this message resonating with people? Is this cool new technique that we tried out really working for people, or whatever it happens to be? So again, your audience, you should hopefully know where your audience is spending their time, what kind of channels they're using to talk to one another and talk about your brand, but really identify that channel and listen to it really closely, because you can get some really valuable feedback that way that doesn't include email tracking. Starting a conversation with your subscribers is something I wholeheartedly encourage everyone to do. So you need to, not necessarily just through like those in-email polls, but asking them to reply to your messages on a regular basis, making sure that you look at the replies to your email campaigns and respond to those replies is really, really important, because people take time out of their day to give you that feedback, and far too often companies will have the no reply at example.com email address set up, and it just goes to this blind inbox. And that's a really big lost opportunity, because people are taking time out of their day to tell you what they think about your email, what they think about your content. And if you actually engage with those people, you reply back to them, you start that conversation. That's one of the best feedback loops you could possibly have as an email marketer, because you're hearing it directly from your subscribers. I see, Dan, do you have a question back there? Yeah.
You guys at Litmus manage the replies that you get to you.
Yeah, so the question is, Dan Oshinsky back there runs notanewsletter.com, which is one of my favorite resources. Highly recommend it. He asks, how do we at Litmus manage like looking at these conversations and keeping up with them? So we're big Help Scout users, helpscout.com, so all of our support funnels through that. So our email addresses that we have people reply to in an email campaign all goes into our Help Scout inbox. So our people on our support team, they look at that all day, every day. If there's a question that they can tackle, then they'll take care of it. They'll reply to customers. If there's something more pointed, like a design issues, they'll forward it over to someone on our email team, like Alice Lee or Lily Worth. If there's something about content, then they'll usually pass it along to whoever happened to write that blog post. So it's a really effective way for, as long as it's collected in one spot and it's regularly checked and you have those mechanisms for sending that out where it needs to go, then it's a super effective way to manage all of that. And I feel like most companies are using some sort of Help Scout or like customer support type tool, so it's usually a pretty easy way to set that up. Cool. So after you have those people, after you get them reading your content, hopefully retaining, you're getting feedback from them, the next step is really thoroughly engaging them. Hopefully that's not too dim. You can see my Jean-Luc Picard. He's saying engage as he does. I try to make that beige. I don't know if it comes through here, but it is what it is. So the number one thing you can do to engage your subscribers is to write something worth reading. A lot of times companies will just sort of collect whatever they happen to have that's laying around a blog, that's in a direct mail piece, whatever it happens to be, and just dump it in a newsletter template. They won't edit it, they won't go through it, make sure that it's really important to their subscribers. So step one is moving beyond that. Again, have those conversations, look at your metrics, figure out what content resonates with your audience, and then gear all of your stuff towards that. Still experiment when you can, still run all of those different tests with content, but this all goes back to understanding your subscribers and what they want and putting in the effort, spending money on copywriters or training your people that you have to be effective copywriters and making sure you're writing something worth reading. And design it well. Again, if you're not an email designer, there's a ton of resources out there, more so than ever before, to learn the sometimes dark art of email design and development, but spend the money on it. Spend the time getting good at email design because it's increasingly important. Again, look through really good emails, focus on things like typography and accessibility and hierarchy and good imagery and all that cool stuff that, those fancy blobs that Chobani forced on the world, which I absolutely love. Focus on those design concepts, see what's out there, see what other people are doing, and design accordingly, because that will draw people in. It's kind of weird to, it's like double-edged to say like the appearance of an email matters more than the content, but a lot of times it does, because it's that first impression you make. It's getting people sucked into the look of your email and invested enough that they're going to actually read the content of your email and get something out of it. So don't take email design lightly, because it's an absolutely vital component of a successful email marketing strategy. Some other cool things you can do are run polls and surveys in emails. Some great examples out there today. There's this guy that works at AWeber named Chris Vasquez, who spoke last year at Litmus Live, but he runs this great newsletter that's called Would You Rather. So we all know the game from like middle school and high school, like, would you rather eat a pretzel covered in ketchup or whatever, would you rather spend 2 minutes with Donald Trump? I don't know. So it's the whole idea though is every email is one of these questions. Would you rather do this or this? So would you rather get a high five or a thumbs up? And that's the whole thing. It's just this like built-in polling mechanism. That's the whole newsletter. But it's this absurdly engaging newsletter campaign. I think I have another example like where he uses that feedback later on here, but there's all kinds of stuff that people are doing, and again, a lot of ESPs have that kind of tooling built out that allows you to add these kind of fun polls. I would say two things to keep in mind if you're going to do something like this. is to A, make them fun. Don't make it just some like really dumb analytics type thing that you're trying to get some data for. Try to make them fun, engaging, something people will actually want to lend their voice to, and then try to set some expectations. If you're going to do something like this, start that strategy, then try to do it on a regular basis, because it trains people to expect this really fun component in your email, and you'll turn them into just these rabid subscribers that are waiting for your next email campaign, which would be amazing to have subscribers like that. So beyond that, again, start those conversations. So incorporate those conversations not only into the learnings and informing the content in your emails, but you can actually incorporate those conversations into the actual content of your emails as well. So a great newsletter is called Dense Discovery, and this guy runs it. It's a collection of cool design articles, things like product focuses, all kinds of different things. But one of the good things that he does is invite people to have conversations with him. So you can reply to the email, talk about something that he was talking about in the email, and especially the last couple of newsletters, he's been having this very public but internal debate about how seriously he should take climate change, especially as somebody that's kind of like a digital nomad. So the guy that runs this travels a lot. He was talking about taking a trip to see some family and how that would require him to fly. And as we all know, air traffic is one of the biggest contributors to climate change. So he's doing this publicly, and he's getting all these amazing responses from subscribers, and then he's working it into that next email campaign. So he talks about what people were saying. He talks about their thoughts, how they relate to what he was sharing with everybody. And it's creating this really awesome conversation that people, like me, I love getting this newsletter and seeing what he's talking about, what other subscribers are telling him, and how that conversation's growing. When we look at Would You Rather, he incorporates the results from the last newsletter into the bottom after that poll in the next newsletter. So a lot of times Chris will add in, he'll show the results. So I think this one was, would you rather have your face on a coin or on a mountain? And it was kind of interesting, 50-50 split. I would say coin all the way, because more people are going to see that, and I just want to get my face out there. But he incorporates feedback, and he even has like quotes from people, because once you click through on that poll, there's a form to collect, like, why would you want to have your face on a coin, or why would you rather get a high five as opposed to a thumbs up? And he brings that in the newsletter. So again, it's creating that expectation, it's sharing that conversation you're having with subscribers, and it's creating this like amazingly engaging experience. And then finally, use your unique voice. And the goal here, the key here, is to be authentic. So don't chase trends just for the sake of chasing them, just for the sake of them being trendy. You want to know what your voice is. It might take a while to get there, to experiment with different copywriting techniques, different visual design, but try to understand your own voice, what you believe, what your values are, and try to express that authentically, and then share that with your audience. And I think we can all agree probably the best example of this that we know is the team at Really Good Emails. So we are hopefully all familiar with their newsletters, their awesome website, their Feedback Friday videos, all of that kind of stuff. But they have a very specific, very humorous, very fun brand that comes through. It's just infused throughout everything they do, including this conference. And people know when they read a bit of copy that it is from the Really Good Emails team. We've done a bunch of webinars with them, and it's fun to get in that Google Doc with, Matthew or Mike, and try to, we sometimes have to like tamper that voice a little bit because it's so strong. Matthew's back there laughing, he knows what I'm talking about. A lot of talk of like unicorns and like non-existent Pokemon species and all that kind of stuff. But they have such a strong voice that it goes through everything they have, and it creates, again, this really good personality that people are ready to engage with and really excited to engage with. I have no idea how I'm doing on time, but I'm almost done, so we'll see how this goes. Jeff, in his slides, I was happy to take this out of there because I think it's a great quote from him. He said that bad emails extract value from subscribers, whereas good emails provide that value. And I think this harkens back. I see some phones up, so I'm going to give it a second. Damn the transition to the next slide. But when we're talking about this conference specifically, that idea was brought up that emails are far too often narcissistic. We have goals as email marketers, we have goals as businesses, and far too often we're focused solely on those goals as opposed to what our subscribers need out of us. And I think that's the goal here, is to focus on what your subscribers need throughout that life cycle, whether you're just acquiring them, whether they've been around for a long time, you're still trying to engage with them, even through to the unsubscribe process. Like, take all of these values along with you throughout that process and figure out what they need. If they need a quick unsubscribe, give it to them. Don't make them jump through all these hoops, and respect them as individuals. So really, when it comes down to it, stop being so narcissistic and focus on what others need and not what you want. With that, thanks. Go wash your hands if you want to give me high fives.